You're listening to What It's Like with Luce, a podcast highlighting ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I'm your host Lucy Norris, and on today's episode I'm joined by one of Holland's best up-and-coming DJs, producers and stamped records artists. Beginning to mix music at just 15 years old in his bedroom, it wasn't long before this young creative from Apeldoorn caught people's attention. Curating a unique sound by mixing electronic genres, his energy gained fans in the likes of Martin Garrix, who eventually signed him to his record label in 2018. Since then, it's been all guns blazing for the Dutch talent, putting out fresh music and touring some of the world's biggest stages, including Tomorrowland, Ultra Singapore, Mysteryland, Amsterdam Dance Event, as well as in China, Taiwan and Japan. Taking 2020 by storm with the release of his first EP, Void, here's what it's like to be Seth Hills. Before we get stuck into the episode, I just wanted to say that if there is a drop in sound quality throughout, I'm very sorry. But in respect of social distancing during COVID-19, I've had to record episodes remotely. In this challenging time, we're all trying our best, so I really hope everyone is staying safe and that you enjoy the episode. Welcome, Seth. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me today. I like to kick things off by letting people get to know you a little bit more. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a few details of what it was like for you growing up in the Netherlands, and also a little bit about what drew you to electronic music in the first place.
Thanks for having me in the first place. And first of all, I started making music when I was 15 years old. So I'm 24 now, so that makes 9 years probably. I'm living in the Netherlands, so it's kind of a culture thing here that we have a lot of people involved in the music industry. And also on school, we have like music lessons. Yeah, for me, I always have the feeling that it's nice to live in the Netherlands since I'm doing music, because before I was producing electronic dance music, I was actually playing guitar, and I could literally have like guitar lessons in like 2 minutes away from my house. Yeah, that's how I started when I was 15 years old actually.
Yeah, I think it's so crazy. The Netherlands has this reputation for just churning out so many good producers and DJs. I wonder why that is, or why that started.
Yeah, I think it's like we're really small, but we have I think we're all like, in general, we're kind of motivated, and we're like, I think we're kind of helping each other. Like, we're good at motivating each other, and we're like really supportive with each other. Like all the friends that are like close to me, like I'm trying to help them, and because I'm trying to help them, they're trying to help me, like at their best. Like, not only the things they want to share and they don't want to share. Now you can just see everything, and I want to see everything at your side, you know. And I think that's something that makes the Netherlands stand out, maybe for other countries. I don't know. That's the feeling I have sometimes.
Yeah, it definitely seems like that from the outside looking in. It seems like you guys have a really strong sense of community there. Also, so you were producing and mixing, and I don't know if I'm getting the terms right, but so correct me if I'm wrong. But from the age of 15, you said, I presume just like in your parents' bedroom at home, or not your parents' bedroom, your bedroom in your parents' house at home.
That was weird.
Yeah, I know. So when, I guess, did that switch flip in your head to turning this into a career rather than just a hobby?
Well, that's actually funny, because lately I thought about that when that switch was in my head. Like, of course you start with a hobby, but when I was 15, I was in high school, and everybody had like in their head, like, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be, I don't know, fireman, whatever. But I really don't know what to do with my life. So I was always like busy with music. Before I played guitar, I played the trumpet and the drums. And when I was 15, I started experimenting with electronic dance music. And I think from the very first start, when I started, like in the very first year, I already made up for myself, like, okay, this is something I really like, and something I really enjoy. And this is actually something I eventually can make a living out of it if I'm investing enough in it, and if I'm lucky maybe, or if I'm taking the right choices. So I think already at the very first year, I was like, okay, I already had like my first gig shortly after. And I was like really small. I was like maybe 50 people, 100 people. But I realized at that point, like, hey, this is something I should actually go for. Like, I don't know what to do else with my life. Sounds a little bit sad, but I really didn't know what to do else with my life. So I was like, okay, I'm just taking the risk. And from that point, I kind of decided, okay, I'm not 100% sure how to do it or in what context to do it, but I'm pretty sure I want to do music like for the rest of my life. But yeah, I think in the first year I was like, okay, I don't know how to do it, but I'm gonna do it somehow. And actually, never from that moment till now, I had like a different idea in my head than making music.
So once you decided that you were going to make it happen for yourself, because I think, I don't know what the situation was when you were breaking into it, but now I feel like a lot of people are looking at DJing as a career and thinking, you know, it's so glamorous, it looks so fun, you guys are partying all the time. So a lot of people are trying to do it. So how did you begin to carve your own space in the industry and make a name for yourself as an individual?
Yeah, I think that's like for most artists that trying to break through like the hardest part, of course. For me, it was like really difficult at the beginning because I started actually making hardstyle music. So I was kind of experimenting with that and kind of thinking about, okay, how I'm going to do this branding. I don't want to share like anything till I'm like 100% satisfied. So I actually didn't release anything, and then I actually found out like hustle isn't really my thing, and I kind of wasn't in creative box where I wanted to step out of, and yeah, that's why I actually started to experiment with more like electro stuff, housey stuff, and that's where I made the switch for myself. Yeah, I remember like at one point I was like experimenting for like what I think like a half a year with like electro music, and yeah, and I remember I told myself, okay, this is the switch I'm making. Like I'm like going like to put all my energy in electro because I kind of was shaping my own sound already. Like I had my own sound in my head at least for electro. So I was like, okay, let's not spend too much energy on the hardstyle because that's not what I want to do anymore. And yeah, so from that point I started kept on producing, and since I was coming from like the hardstyle scene, you could probably hear in my first productions as well as Seth Hills that it was kind of influenced by hardstyle. So that's like I signed like 2 tracks on Hardstyle's label back then on Revealed, and yeah, everybody was like, yo, this is probably someone that came from the hardstyle, and that was kind of funny. So it kind of stand out already because it had that influence from another music genre. And yeah, that was like the first stamp in the scene for me. Like, okay, at least it's getting noticed because it's slightly different.
Yeah, you kind of like created your own genre by accident by making that switch, which
Yeah,
is pretty cool.
yeah, exactly.
And at this time, were you still just playing in clubs or playing kind of wherever you could get a slot? Or how were you also projecting yourself onto the scene physically as well as releasing music? Or were you releasing music online, or how were you getting yourself out there, I guess?
Yeah, like it's of course everything starts with music, and you probably noticed that like the social media game, like it's becoming more important like every year. Like
Mhm.
the games are getting like the game like 4 years ago it was good if you were like nicely dressed, you had some quality pictures and a nice caption, and then you kind of were kind of on top of the game already. But now the social media game became so important that it's kind of like a game or like a contest with like your colleagues, and
Yeah, crazy.
who can stand out like the biggest branding, who can make the best pictures, who can tell the best story, who can make the best movies, video clips, etc., etc. So I think it's really nice because I really like the branding part of an artist, and I kind of like found my own brand to tell online. Like I really like to do like the kind of the fashion photos. I always have my own style of photos. If you look at my photos, it's always like feeling like a bit of cold, futuristic, and yeah, I'm like ready to get that to the next level as well. Like we just developed like a robot that you saw on my last artworks from the EP. That's like a robot coming back, and that's just the beginning. Like that robot is coming back in the visuals in the future. It might be coming back in video clips in the future, and that's going to be play a big role in the branding. And that also like connects with the music because the music always has to sound futuristic and new for me, and also like a robot can help with the printing, you know.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, your Instagram is very cool. I was looking at it earlier. You've definitely nailed the whole influencer thing on that side of it.
Thanks so much.
And yeah, I think the other side of DJing, which is so cool, is all the production that goes into it. It's not just the music, it's putting on the actual show, which I think all of you guys at Stamped and again from the Netherlands, it seems to all be coming from you guys. It looks really cool. So yeah, that side of things is definitely cool, and I'm excited to see what you're going to do with that robot in the future. Do you remember, or maybe I don't know, it might have been a few things, but did you have one breakthrough moment or one moment where you really, something happened, or a performance where you really thought, oh my god, this is actually going to happen for me, I can do this for my life?
Yeah, I actually had like two moments that I like remember instantly when you say this. Like the first moment that I was like, okay, this is getting serious, was probably at my first big festival in Holland. It was like back in 2014 when I didn't even play at Seth Hills, but like at that point I was like playing a big festival, and I was playing at 5 in the afternoon, and 5 till 6, and yeah, I didn't expect it to be like so crowded, but the stage was like outside. It was like an outside stage, like outdoor, and yeah, it was like fully crowded, and I actually prepared that set. Like every second from that set was like prepared. And I did the live mixing, of course, but like I was like working on that set for like 2 months. But
Yeah.
like it was my first big show, so I prepared that set like really a long time. And yeah, the set went perfectly well. The audience response was really good, and I remember that from that point I was like, "Bro, this thing is really getting started right now. Like it's really happening. This is what I actually wanted all the time when I started, and now it's happening." And that was like the first moment that I realized, okay, I have to. This is like the just the moment that I have to realize that I even have to keep on working and work harder every day, because I actually tasted something from the thing that I wanted to do, you know? I remember the second moment, like I always, in 2018, I didn't do that much because I was kind of looking for a new sound. And when I kind of like did a rebranding, like I changed everything. I changed my logo. I did new pictures. But also most important, my music changed. And that's in the beginning of 2019. I actually signed with Stamp Recordings because Stamp and also Martin Garrix was a really big fan of my new sound. And I remember I was like invited to the Stamp studios, and everybody was there. Like Martin Garrix was there. I remember Julian Jordan was there. CMCS was there. And I was actually having so much fun in the studios with all those guys that were, for me at that point, they were like really big guys, of course, who I kind of looked up to.
Yeah.
And from that point, I was like working with them, having fun with them, having dinner with them. And at that point, I was like, okay, this is, I'm like, I entered like a different chapter of my adventure, you know, of my career at that point. Like, I'm like getting part of a group, or like I don't know how to say it, but I was like kind of moment where I realized that hey, this is again like we're getting started again.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're kind of being accepted into the club in some ways. You're having dinner with Martin Garrix. I think it's fair to say you're doing pretty well for yourself at that point.
Yeah, it was like a really great moment, really weird moment. Like, hey, now I'm not like seeing the guys on Instagram doing big shows, but now I'm like sitting next to them, like working together with them in music. That was like, yeah, that was like pretty crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you touched there about your signing with Stamped Records. Um, can you maybe take me back to those days when you did notice you were getting a lot of traction from the bigger guys in the industry, and they were becoming fans of yours? And when did Stamped approach you and want to take you on board?
Yeah, that was at the end of 2018, because in 2018 I had like 2 releases only, because I was really looking for a new sound, because I kind of did like the really hard stuff where I was getting tired of, because it was kind of hardstyle influence, as I said, and I was like tired of mega aggressive hard stuff. So I kind of developed like a new sound for myself, which I translated into Fire together with Magnificence, which I released in the middle of 2018, just before the summer. Like every big DJ was probably like playing the track suddenly. Like we didn't expect it to to get so big like fire. I noticed that I was starting to get noticed by the bigger labels and the bigger DJs, because bigger DJs were following me. Labels are actually responding to my demo, And yeah, I remember I was trying to get the tracks to stamped, and because I had just in my mind, like for me it fitted like perfectly on stamped, and like the just the brand stamp was like something I was really interested in. So I remember I sent it to them, but I didn't get like a response in the first week. And then I actually, in that weekend, I had a show where Julian Jordan was playing. And we were like sitting in a hotel, I think before the show or after the show. And he was like, yo, let me listen to your music, just show me your music. I'm like curious. So I had like a map of like 12 unreleased tracks, and I showed them all the tracks. And he was like, whoa, dude, this is actually really insane. Do you mind like sending me all those tracks? So I sent it all to Julian. And I think like in the same week, we were like talking about a collab, which actually happened really quickly, because in the same week I made a sketch. I think in the same week, we actually finished the track. So he got the stamped eventually in the studios, and he was together with the main A&R, like the music manager from Stamped, Martin Garrix, and then Julian. And I was like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm making a new track with this guy. I don't know if you know it. And he has like a ton of unreleased tracks. So he showed the tracks to Martin Garrix and Steven. He's like the main A&R. And I remember like the same day I got like a phone call from Steven. He was like, hey, I actually missed your email, but yeah, that's some nice tracks you got over there. Like how long are you producing, etc. And I think we were on the phone for like half an hour, like talking about music. And he was like, yeah, just you know what, just come by one day at the office, like next week or anything. We just want to talk with you, And then I went to the office, and yeah, I really had a warm feeling. Like I was really a really supportive feeling, and they were really positive, really enthusiastic. And he was like, just every track you made, just send it to us, and we'll look what we do with it. And from the 10 tracks, they were like interested in 2 or 3 to sign straight away. So that was like really great news. And I remember like I was so motivated at that point to prove myself to the team that I actually made Echo together with a friend of mine, just to prove that I can really make something weird. And like with that attention, I remember like 1 week later, again, Julian was in the studio with Martin Garrix, and he showed him Echo. And that's where he actually called me. Martin Garrix, like he called me, like said like, yo, this is Martin Garrix, and again, this track is like next level. This is crazy, and this needs to get released, and I want to play this at my shows. Also the same day, like Steven got again, and like he was calling my manager, I remember, and my manager called me. He was like, I have good news for you. Like besides from they want to sign the tracks, they actually want to sign you as an artist. So yeah, I think we have to do this. A week later, again, I signed with them, and from then on I started to work really closely with them.
That's crazy. That must have been a hectic few months for you. It sounds like it moved really quickly.
Yeah, it went from 0 to 100 like in a few seconds for me. Yeah.
Do you ever get like nervous or feel the pressure, like in those months when things were really taking off? Obviously it was super exciting and probably, you know, what you'd hoped for a long time, but you are really young, and you know, with all of this comes a lot of attention, and I'm sure a lot of pressure too. So did you ever get nervous about it or feel overwhelmed maybe?
Yes, of course. Like I remember when I was like sitting in the studio, and like I had the feeling like nobody heard my sound that I wanted to put out. So I was in a vibe that I wanted to prove myself to the audience, that I wanted to make myself noticeable, that I wanted to be like, simply said, like in the spotlight with the sound. And like of course, when the bigger DJs starting to play out the tracks, and the sound was getting a sound, and I was getting noticed from it, like it automatically, like it gave like pressure with it, because more people started to following me, like way more people, big DJs are like come to me like, hey, I like your stuff, do you have new stuff, maybe we can do a collab. And from that point I was like, okay, I'm not like behind the scenes or like underground. Right now I'm actually being noticed, like I'm being watched. So this, it kind of switched for me, like okay, now at first I wanted to prove myself, but at that point I just was like, okay, now I have to prove myself. It's not just wanting to prove myself, but now I have to prove myself because now everybody is watching. Actually, it gave like a pressure, and it kind of was, sometimes it was harder in the studio, of course, because you have like expectations from certain groups, of course. But at the end, it gave even more motivation and energy, of course, to do my thing. And yeah, but I can't say I had like pressure on me, which affected me, of course. But I think it's kind of normal when things happen like so quickly.
Do you ever get moments where there's no music coming out, and what do you do when you do get those moments?
Yeah, there's a lot of moments when that happens. I think nobody has like endless inspiration. That would have been weird, because if that wasn't me, I would like release music every day.
Yeah.
But it's just how you respond to it, because as you said, like in the first months where things were happening, like a stamp, etc. When a writer's block came and when no inspiration was there, I was kind of panicking because, oh, what now? I have to make music. My releases can't go quiet. You know, I have to keep on releasing. But I think for me personally, it's always like, why do I make music? Not that I didn't stick to music because I wanted to get a music schedule like every 6 weeks. That's not my goal. That wasn't my goal at all. My goal was to keep having fun in making music. So I always tell myself when like no inspiration is, and I'm getting like panicking when nothing happens, just okay, I don't have fun in music now, but maybe I will have fun in music tomorrow, or maybe next week, or even maybe next month, you know? And so I don't have to deliver every day. I just want to translate like positive vibes and feelings in the studio to like tracks, and when they aren't there, you probably can force them.
And also, we were chatting a little bit before about how being locked in your house or being confined in your country is actually a little bit of a welcome break for you from touring all the time. So I'd also be curious to know what touring is really like, because, you know, as you were saying before, there's a lot of expectations about the world that you work in and how glamorous it is and crazy it is all the time, which I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's super stressful and tiring a lot of the time too. So can you just tell me a little bit about what your experience is like touring?
Yeah, that's really funny, because I remember like I had this in my head, like how it was going to be. Like it wasn't stressful or tired at all. I'm just going to fly, and I'm going to have fun and feel good all the time, you know, and have the best day in my life and see the world. That wasn't the case at all.
Oh, really?
And like the at least like the first tour that I did, like 2016, I got booked in Japan. It was like my first like really. I played in Germany, but I got there with car, so that's not touring, you know. I got my first show in Japan, and I was actually, that was like the biggest mistake I made, and that's the last time that I was touring on my own. So I expected everything to be perfect, and it actually was like really sick. It was like the craziest experience of my life so far back then. But I remember when I was alone in my hotel room, I was like, "Bro, I'm alone at the other side of the world, and nobody's here." And so I started to FaceTime my friends, my family, just to talk with them, you know.
Yeah.
And also like the sleep, like I underestimated it. Like I was like, okay, I'm gonna fly to Japan. It's 8 hours later, but when it's night, it's dark, so I can sleep. So I remember it was like we were drinking that night, the first night, and I got back at 1 a.m. and I was okay. I'm gonna close my eyes right now, and I'm going to sleep. Nope. It was like 7 a.m. and I was like, I think I actually can't sleep right now because of the time, and it was already light and I still didn't sleep. So I was like, I don't know. Okay, so I'm starting to talk with people again, and it was like 8 in the morning, and I remember at like 9 I had to I was being picked up by the car because we had to drive to another part of Japan. Japan was like such a nice country, and it was like I never got like so far at the end of the world. Like I was going on vacation to Spain, like this was like different part of the world, so it was like so intense, but also at the same time like so intense and tiring, you know. So I remember when I got back, I got like so tired, and I slept for 13 hours, and I woke up with a big headache. So I was like, I was spending one more day there, so I kind of took my rest, and then it was like really nice, and the people were really, really nice. But when I got back, I was telling myself, okay, next time I'm going to go to take sleeping pills with me, and I'm going to bring family or a friend with me because this is like really crazy on your own. It's really lonely, especially when you're like surrounded by people that are like really enthusiastic, and then you're coming back to your hotel room, and then you close the door, and then that's where you realize like, hey, I'm really really lonely right now. And so that's from that point. That's the first time and last time I went alone in tour. So I always bring like friends or like family, and also bring like good sleeping pills because sleeping is like so important. Last year I was doing a lot, of course, because yeah, like bookings wise, last year was like I think the best year for me so far since I signed with Stamp. I had a lot of 6M shows, also a lot of club shows, especially in Asia. And sometimes it just happens that I remember I played in Taiwan, and I actually had to go straight to the airport to fly to Tokyo, and it's actually not possible to really get sleep only in the plane. And because of the adrenaline you get from the show, from the people in the city, and the promoters getting enthusiastic for the show for tonight, I actually don't really feel the tiredness anymore. At least if I sleep for like 2 or 3 or 4 hours, that's fine.
Do you have a dream venue or a dream collaboration that you would love to see happen for you in the future?
Like the dream venue, I always said like in the very start of when I started making this music, I always wanted to play the Tomorrowland main stage. But this year it was actually happening. But
Oh, no
yeah,
way.
due to Corona, I wasn't playing. So yeah,
Oh, I'm
that
so
was like
sorry.
yeah, that's like the saddest thing that show for me that I had to skip. But besides from the venue dream, I think Skrillex is like the best producer in the world, and that's like the biggest goal for me to at least to sit in the studio with him. Not like maybe not even release a track, but I actually like want to sit in the studio with him. That's like for a collaboration, that's my biggest goal.
Well, you never know. It could happen.
I
The
hope
way
so.
the way things are going for you, I'm sure it will in the future. Um, and so at the moment you have just released, I believe it's your first EP called Void.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah. Can you tell me a bit about the story behind that and how it's going so far?
Yeah. Like this year, at the beginning of this year, I was um, looking at my music folder that I had, like unreleased music, and there were quite some tracks in it. So I was like, okay, I can like spread this out through the whole year, and then I would probably be ready. Probably for the whole year, I would have been ready if I released everything as a single. So I was like, nah, it's like the beginning of the year, and I actually wanted to put it out faster because I kind of was redeveloping my sound again. Like what I'm doing right now is I'm looking for a wider sound, like for a bigger audience. So I was like, I'm gonna release one single this year, and after that, I'm gonna release an EP, like with all the tracks, like the best tracks from the unreleased, like to put out as quickly as possible. And so I took like the best tracks from the unreleased tracks, and I was shaping them together. Like, how are we going to translate this in like one story? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna make this as one whole, like one story, connected through the fitting artworks. Yeah, I think at the end it was like time for something else than just releasing a single club track every 6 weeks. So that's where we decided to do it as one EP with like one look and feel. And I actually also wanted to, because just quarantine started back then, and I just wanted didn't want to be quiet in that period. Like I had like the music laying around, and the clubs were closed. But anyways, I just wanted to put out the music just to keep the fans and the people entertained. So that's also a big reason why we did the Void EP.
How have people been receiving it?
Yeah, I got like really great responses because I noticed like people were kind of still missing the club tracks, the aggressive club tracks with high energies. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the reasons that like I got like a lot of positive reaction on this EP because people are kind of missing these tracks nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. And do you know yet when you'll be allowed to tour or play in clubs again, or do you have a date where everything's going to start, I guess, going a little bit back to normal for you?
Well, actually, like 2 months ago, it started to look better. Like it seems like there's light at the end of the tunnel, but like I have the feeling right now, nothing is clear at the moment. Like countries are closing again, clubs are closing again. Some countries are like not even accessible right now. So now for me, it's not really clear when we can go touring. It would make like a really big difference if we had like a date. That would make like a big difference also in the studio, because you can work towards something, but it
Yeah.
isn't there right now. So yeah, for
Yeah.
me it's really hard. There isn't like a clear schedule, a clear date that we can go touring again. But right now, like the vibes are different, so I'm experimenting a lot with like with way more radio friendly and Spotify friendly music. So it has some nice things coming with it, of course, because I wouldn't have done this otherwise right now probably. But I would rather like be touring, of course. But
Yeah.
it's it I don't know. It has some nice things as well, because I'm really excited for the tracks I'm working on right now, and it's
Yeah.
probably a spell that nobody would have really expect from me in the first place. So that's something nice there.
And then if you had to say one career high and one career low so far, what would they be?
Last year, I know I have to pick one, but I have to pick two though, because
Okay.
I remember I was playing Ushuaia like for the first time. I was actually visiting Ushuaia before, like in the years before. But yeah, I got like to Ibiza to play at Ushuaia before Martin Garrix. And what I experienced myself from some Ushuaia shows is that people are like kind of low in energy, kind of waiting for the headline DJ to start. But still, I invited like a lot of friends and family to the show, and like I think never there was like so much family and friends, so that the vibe was really crazy. And I didn't expect like really that much. I was really looking forward to it, but I didn't expect like that much from the show. But eventually, like the audience was like next level. Like everybody was like so high in energy, even though I was like actually warming up for Martin Garrix, of course. But like they were so dedicated. There were so much STEM fans, and because it was like so unexpected, and like my family was there and the weather was so good. Like I'm used to mostly playing dark clubs like at night, so that was like probably like the sickest moment. And like the second highlight was like Mysteryland probably, um, where I was closing, and somehow like I didn't expected that much from it as well. I don't know why. Yeah, I was closing the stamp stage, and it was like fully packed, and there was like the stage was so sick. The sound was so good. There was like fire, it was like smoke, and like I was like really tired because I just came back from the second time that I was playing Ushuaia last year. So I just got straight from Ibiza that morning. I was like sleeping in the car on the road to Mysteryland, and then I was starting the show, and I was like so overwhelming, like so intense, like somehow it was like a magical show, and that was like probably my second favorite highlight for my career. And I actually think like the downside, one downside was like probably when I went on my own touring like to Japan. That was like a learning moment for me, that I always have to bring like family or friends on tour, because otherwise it's like it is really nice, but it's like really lonely. So yeah, I really like to be with like surrounded with my people, with like family and friends. So it was like a learning moment, but that was probably the only really downside of my career.
Yeah, well, those two first performances sound insane. I'm sure it was a pinch me moment for you. And I just have one more question for you, and I'm going to let you go. If I put your 10-year-old self in front of you today, having been through everything you've been through in life, all of your travels, and then with your career, what's the biggest piece of advice you'd give that 10-year-old self moving forward in life?
Um, yeah, just keep the fun. Like you, like in this scene, you don't have to do anything. Of course, you want to prove yourself and you want to stand out and you want to make your brand as strong as possible. But at the moment, always when I think back, it's always like when I had the most fun, that's where the best things happen. And it sounds maybe it sounds like cliche, but I think that's the best advice I can give to everyone. Like also besides music, even like if you're having fun and you're really, it's just important that you really do what you like at that point where you feel like your inner fire like burning, like this is what I really want to do and this is why I do it. And I think that's the most important thing, to really have fun, to always remind yourself to have fun in what you're doing. You never actually need to force yourself to do anything. If you need to force yourself, then something is probably going wrong. Like if I'm as I said, if I'm having the most fun, then there's where the best things happens for me at least.
No, I like that. I think that's a good piece of advice. And yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and giving up your afternoon. It's been so interesting chatting to you, and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me as well.
Thank you so much for listening, and as always, please rate, share, and leave a comment if you like what you hear. And don't forget to follow @WhatIt'sLikePod on Instagram and Facebook. To find out more about Seth's career and to listen to Void, visit the links provided in the show notes. I'll be back on Thursday with more inspiring stories, but for now, this has been What It's Like with Luce.